If you are falling behind in your home with decluttering or cleaning, and you have experienced some level of depression, well, then we need to talk. Well, hello friends, I'm Mary Beth with At What Cost, where simple living and deep faith go hand in hand. For the most part, I like to stay pretty drama-free on this channel, but I came across something in another video that I just don't think I can let go of. Now, let me get a few housekeeping things out of the way. First, this is totally off the cuff. I didn't write any bullet points out or scripts or anything. This is totally just a off the cuff response to something and a little bit of a thing I feel like I need to talk through with you. This is not in any way medical advice, mental health advice. This is simply my own experience for entertainment purposes only, and all the disclaimery things here on after. So if you have been watching this channel any length of time, you likely know that beginning in September, over a 6-month period, both my husband and I lost both of our fathers, and we had a string of family crises. As you can imagine, it's been a little difficult to deal with. And despite having a very strong faith, knowing that God is sovereign, knowing that I'm not being punished for something or I'm unworthy of things, I still have had an ongoing battle with deep sadness and even depression. And as a result, it has been difficult for me to want to do things around our house like decluttering and cleaning and organizing and making YouTube videos about all of that. Now, for all of my kind of mama subscribers, we have a really great community here, and I know some of you are going to be a little worried when I say things like I have been battling with some mild depression. I do have a counselor. You don't adopt 3 boys from foster care, have a crazy life, work full time, and not have some regular counseling to just deal with life. I have had a wonderful Christian counselor for several years now and have really been able to talk through a lot of these things, manage these feelings. And although I have definitely been feeling some of the effects of all of this grief and crisis, I have a very good support system around me. And I would encourage you, if you are going through any of these things, to reach out to individuals who are able to help support you through this. We need others to come alongside us and help build us up in this level of suffering. It's hard. We can't go it alone. Now that we have the housekeeping kind of out of the way, let me explain a little of how this came about. So as a YouTuber, I am always looking for topics to talk with you guys about. I have things that are happening in my own home that I certainly can make videos on. And sometimes those things are cleaning, like specifically cleaning when you feel depressed. I need resources. So do you. This is a part of wisdom. So I came across a video. I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to tell you who it was by. It was from a few years ago. I don't want to be throwing any shade at anyone, but there was a comment made at some point in the video that hit me pretty hard. So essentially what this individual was saying is that oftentimes it has been their experience that individuals who are Christians that are also suffering from depression and have issues keeping their home clean and their wardrobes and doing the things that they need to do in life, that it is essentially because they are made to feel that they are not worthy of these things within the Christian faith. And the explanation was really that the Christian faith tells believers over and over and over again that we are sinners, that we fall short of God's standards. And therefore, because we have this lowly status as sinners, that we are essentially worthless because we are sinners. So the example was that because we are sinners, we are not worthy of a clean home. We are not worthy of having nicer things or having things taken care of. And especially during a time of depression, there can be an experience of guilt and shame over not doing the things that you know you need to do. I will share from my own experience that I have not felt much like doing some of the basic things that I need to do, like cleaning my kitchen or doing the dishes or cooking dinner. I can get through my workday. I can get through the things that I need to. I can take care of my children. Things are fine. But when it comes to especially caring for myself, I can just kind of not feel like doing it. Now, these are my own experiences. Everyone else experiences life and the stressors and the struggles and the sufferings of life in different ways. And the more I thought about it, I don't think this is just about depression. I also don't think this is just about the Christian faith, but we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Not to mention the huge misconception here, okay? Like if your red flags are not going off at this point, then I hope by the end of this video, you understand why my red flags popped up immediately. We can feel guilt or shame over a lot of things, regardless of whether or not it's driven by depression. Maybe you have a chronic illness and you're not able to do the things that you would desire to do. Maybe you have young children that take up a lot of your time, and so you're not able to do the things that you desire to do. There can be any number of reasons that we have a task before us and we don't do it. And we ultimately feel guilt and shame afterwards. So here's the first misconception. Being a Christian, loving God, loving Jesus, and accepting God's sovereignty means those things don't happen. That's the first misconception. All Christians face suffering. All of us. We're promised suffering. And taken out of context and apart from the entire rest of the Christian faith, yeah, that sounds a little depressing. We're gonna suffer. Nobody enjoys it, nobody likes it, but when we accept the love of Christ and the care of Christ, we know that the sufferings that we face are for our good and God's glory. Have you experienced a time of suffering and a few years later, maybe even decades later, you realize that all of that suffering produced a level of character in you? Or maybe it changed the way you viewed someone else. Maybe it changed the desires that you had to pursue another area of life. There's always some outcome from our suffering that we can be changed by. Now, we don't always see the fruit of that. We don't always see the effect of that on this side of eternity, but we know because we trust God that our suffering is not for nothing. Now, the second misconception here is that because we are sinners, we are not worthy of good things. Now, this is an important one because this is an attack on the essential elements of the gospel. Let's look first at ourselves. We have all been made in the image of God. We are also all descendants of Adam and Eve, the first man and woman who were created when God created the earth. He tasked them with a job. He told them not to eat the fruit of a specific tree, and they disobeyed God, and they did it anyway. And in them, they sinned, and we all sinned along with them. Now, this is a really complicated topic that I am happy to cover in another video, but ultimately, we all experience the effects of the fall. You can read about this in Genesis chapter 3, but this is really the first step in the gospel. We understand that we are sinners, not just sinners, but hopeless sinners. We are incapable of saving ourselves. Because we are incapable of saving ourselves, God, in His amazing mercy and grace, sent a provision to make a way back to Him in our relationship. He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for our sin, for our transgression. Jesus knew no sin. Jesus had lived a perfect and obedient life, the life that we could have never lived. Jesus lived that life for us, and in Him, all of our sin is undone on the cross. We are forgiven for our sin. When we put our faith in Jesus Christ and in Jesus alone, we are restored to God. When God looks at us, He sees Jesus. He sees the perfection that is Jesus Christ. So to think that because of our sin, we are somehow not worthy to God is really to deny the work that Christ did on the cross. It's to say that Jesus wasn't enough to restore us. Now, I don't know the personal life of this particular individual. I don't know if they're a believer or not, but I think it's important that to understand someone's perspective, that you have to sort of take yourself out of your own perspective and look at it from theirs. Now, if you are attending a church where you hear over and over and over again that you are a sinner, that you are a hopeless sinner, but there's not enough gospel preached to really remind us about that redemption and where our identity now lies, then yes, I totally can understand how you can become very depressed, feeling that you will never live up to the standards. But because of the work that Christ did on the cross, that just simply is not true of us. Even in our suffering, even in our times of discipline, in our times of happiness and sadness and sorrow, when things are easy, when things are hard, in all of those things, we are worthy to God. There is a clear thread that runs through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. God is pursuing the heart of His people. The lengths that God has gone to pursue the heart of His people. Giving His only Son to die on a cross in pursuit of the hearts of His people. If that doesn't demonstrate our worthiness to God, our value to God, I don't know what does. So if you have found yourself in a place of being a believer who doesn't fully understand that you are valuable to God, that you are worth having a clean home and being taken care of, then I hope that this message is one that penetrates into your heart and reminds you that God has gone great lengths to rescue you from sin, and that in His eyes, you are seen as perfect and lovely and worthy of Him. Now, we are going to get back to our regular decluttering, and I have lots of things planned for us over the next few weeks, but I could not let this go without talking to you about it. Thank you so much for watching, and until I see you again, keep fighting the good fight.